you're now called the number one brother. I'm the one with the hunchback that sits in the company. Let's start with the fact that both of them are in demand. So if you are in this ecosystem of owning a property now, the inflation of property prices doesn't actually fear you that much because you've made money on your previous house.
We are in a day and age, 2025, where people are queuing up overnight to stay in the queue to try and be able to reserve a property.
The race to population versus property, I was sitting there going, wow, this is a £5 million villa. And people are like queuing at Spinneys for a bag of crisps.
Now people have an opportunity to have 10-year visas. People aren't really renewing, not really revisiting their life situation. That's staying here a lot longer.
Do you think Dubai has made 1,800 millionaires in a year?
Probably, yeah. For sure.
I don't read much into that data, but one thing that I do read into is there's been 91% increase year on year of cash buyers.
It is catching though, isn't it? It's getting hotter.
And it's tax-free.
So come to Dubai, Habibi.
Not too much because of the traffic. On today's episode of Taking Care of Business, we are talking February 2025's Dubai and Allsopp Allsopp property transaction figures. So we're going to take a deep dive into have a look at what's selling, what's going up, what's going down, because there's lots of news to digest, and our job is to unpack that for you and give you an idea of what's going on. Welcome to my older,
Definitely older.
still handsomer. Mm-hmm. You are having a glow up. It's nice to see.
Take it.
You're now called the number one brother. I'm the one with the hunchback that sits in the company. So Dubai data, lots to go through.
Look, when people listen to these podcasts, thank you everyone for listening and watching, but when people listen to these podcasts, there's a lot of numbers. Our job is to make it as simple as we possibly can. I'm also very conscious when we do these podcasts for us to be sounding like, so really salespeople pumping Dubai up, but we're only reading off numbers today, which two sources really. One, our own data from all transactions that happened last month that were agreed, and the second data source is Dubai Land Department, which is sales which actually transferred.
Yeah. And
you find that data is normally a 3-month lag, right? So from when the sales agreed, 3 months to go through, then it gets reported. So where do we start? Because there's a big difference right now between, we're kind of seeing a divide between apartments and a villa townhouse market. They're no longer really seen as the same thing. They're really kind of, really dissected and two different viewpoints in them.
Well, let's start with the fact that both of them are in demand. I mean, that's a given. I'm just going to mention something from this morning. So I was sent pictures from 10 o'clock last night up till 7 a.m., 9 a.m. this morning. Gaff Woods, sorry.
Yeah.
But I'm sure the queue was in Tilal Al Gaff, the sales centre.
I mean, we are in a day and age, 2025, where people are queuing up overnight to stay in the queue to try and be able to reserve a property. I mean, that's mind-blowing. I mean, great marketing for the developer's perspective, but not very nice people staying up overnight.
No, I mean, look, we've got people that are high-level agents, but at the end of the day, you've got to think about it. You're making, as an agent, 10, 11, 12,000 pounds a sale. So when you're in the mix, you want to do it. But the reason I was saying that about the apartments and townhouses, Gaff Woods apartments, I think there's 900 or so units. The queue is there for expressions of interest, which means basically you sign to say you want it, your passport number, passport document, and a check copy to register you for the launch. Completely sold out. So our agents were there with tokens, getting their dinners delivered to them with camp chairs to get the units. And I think we picked up 20 sales or so today with the guys at Majid Al Futtaim. And yeah, it was incredible. So I think there's demand on both sides, but townhouses, you're really seeing it's not even a boom. There's a massive, massive demand for it, and there's no way near enough. Now, you've got to think about apartments anyway. They're built vertically, aren't they? Mm-hmm. So, you're going to be able to sell a lot more. There was recently the Oasis, Emaar Oasis, that recently launched. There were villas at 20, 25, 28 million. We were selling them.
Yeah.
And people are like, I want one. And like I was sitting there going, wow, this is a £5 million villa. And people are like you're queuing at Spinneys for a bag of crisps that's run out. They're like, I want one because people have this fear of missing out, whatever it may be.
That particular development, what do you think made its own demand? Was it because it was branded, it was an address villa, or the location, which, by the way, I think is fantastic, behind Jumeirah Golf Estates? What do you think was, or it was Emaar, because obviously Emaar...
Yeah, I think Emaar are great, but I don't think Emaar are the number one developer for quality right now. I think that based on what I've seen handed over, we've seen talked about Select before. We've seen some of the smaller developers deliver, and I'm interested to see how he might deliver. The reason people were in demand for this is the renders are travertine, modern, inside, outside living. They come with basements, and they're just what you class as like, if you take the older villas at the moment, whether it's Emirates Living or let's say Jumeirah Islands, what people are doing in Jumeirah Islands at the moment is actually knocking them about and turning them into the white modern houses and putting the picture windows in them. People are now getting this with bigger plots. And the big thing is, and what I'm seeing a lot of, they're building man-made lagoons and water. And everyone wants to live by the water, don't they? That's the number one thing they want. So I think there's a massive demand for it being an address branded villa. Also adds that kudos. But they weren't cheap. They sold out, which is crazy. So the demand is there at luxury level and lower levels. To give you some interesting stats, 93% increase year on year from February 2024, February 2025 from the Dubai Land Department for villas and townhouses. 105% increase in sales value from Allsopp and Allsopp data. And also 102% from the Dubai Land Department for sales volume. Why is it you think, in your opinion, all this data is boom growth in the townhouse and villas? Why do you see that?
Well, let's unpack that. 93% increase in sales value year on year. That's twofold. One, it could be naturally property prices in villas and townhouses have increased significantly because there are far fewer villa townhouses versus apartments. Obviously, the value of these properties, they could range from anywhere between 2, 3, 4, 5 million up to 30, 40, 50 and more. So that plays a part in the increase. I just think the reality is you look at new inventory coming into the marketplace, and we're talking single digits for villa townhouses versus the remaining being apartments. So I think there's a lot fewer. I think there's a big demand there. I think sentiment is people are edging towards bigger apartments and moving towards villa townhouses.
Perfect example is that we talk about the saying growing up in Dubai. As Dubai grows up, you grow up. So I had a recruitment, Cameron. He was living in downtown in an apartment. Just completed on his new villa, Damac Hills, big plot for the dogs and the family, etc., etc. There are many people that are probably going through that transition a bit.
I think this all comes back to the golden visa. When we moved here 2008, people tend to review their...
by the way.
What? 06, yeah. People tended to review their circumstances every 2 years because that's how long your visa was, every 2 years or even 3 years. Now people have an opportunity to have 10-year visas. People aren't really renewing, they're not really revisiting their life situation. They're staying here a lot longer. So someone like Cameron, he's been here 7 years, growing up, getting older, and naturally villa life is something that attracts him.
What's interesting with Cameron, he's the perfect example. He owned his house in downtown. The market has gone up in downtown, so he's made money on his apartment. He sold his apartment to buy a villa, but he's bought again. I'm not going to say the expensive end, but he's bought in the inflated market and it might go up further. So he doesn't really fear the prices because he's gained on his house and he's gaining again. So if you are in this ecosystem of owning a property now, the inflation of property prices doesn't actually fear you that much because you've made money on your previous house.
I get that also, but people will say to me, well, when's it going to stop? And I say, well, look, why are you buying? Are you buying to live in or to invest? And if you're buying to live in, honestly speaking, the home I'm in, I very rarely check the price of it, very rarely. And every now and then some agent will say you can get this for it. But I think you do, that idea of always keeping an eye on the market, if you're living there, enjoy it. Don't worry about the property price.
That's hard for someone to understand if they are not living in a property. I find a lot of people that live in rented, they go, well, what do you think it'd be worth? And I say, look, like I've been a homeowner since I was 21, I'm 38 now, 39 in April. Yes, you like to spy on it, but the number one thing when you own a home is enjoy living there. And along the ride, you'll end up making money, whether it's discharging your mortgage or the growth coming up. So I think that's hard for people to really understand, but that's a massive part of buying a house. Like I would say to anybody buying a property, don't buy the cheapest one and think, oh, I've got a great deal, because you won't sit on your sofa in like 6 months and be like, I hate the house, but I got a great deal. You realistically, you want to love the house you're in.
Yeah, I think it all comes back to location, or buy the best unit you can in the best tower, the best view that you can.
Do you think if you bought a property now in the next 3 years, it will drop?
No, I think it will probably stabilise, but the reality is who knows what's going to happen. Most things you don't see coming, but I still think there's legs in the marketplace. I think when there's more inventory, so more properties handing over from developers, we may start seeing a flattening of prices. However, I have big question marks of developers being able to build and hand over at the rate that is required.
The other race that you're facing, because you're facing two races here, handing over villas and apartments, whatever that may be, but the builders got to outpace the people moving to Dubai. And the rate of people, and I said this on the camera before, I'm speaking to international footballers, professional cyclists, people that people really know, they're really famous people. And I'll say to them, look, why are you coming here? When I retire, this is the place I want to be. Like, I was on the phone to a talent agency in America, and there's some people that we're working with at the moment from the private office, and they're really well-known actors, really well-known. They want private office services to find. And I said, why are these guys moving over? Because the place they're living at the moment isn't retirement worthy, and they see Dubai as that place. I think everyone I'm speaking to, there is a touch of Dubai, whether it's now, later, in a couple of years, they're moving here. Who else? So one of my friends, Tom, he lives in Bath, and I've always said, come over, because he's got 2 kids. No, Dubai's not for me, Dubai's not for me. And he's messaged me about a week ago, I'm moving to Dubai, I'm over on Tuesday, I'm looking for schools at the moment, let me know which areas you're going to. The race to population versus property is a big problem.
What people don't realise as well is in Dubai, there's something called the Rest app. Rest app allows you to jump on and see how far along a project is completed. Now, let's say, for example, something complete states 100% completed. The handover can take many months trying to get across all the units and all the owners to hand over all of the inventory. So it's great saying, oh, it's 100% completed. Yeah. But if you've got to hand over 400 units, it don't take weeks. It takes months and months and months.
I transferred on my Jumeirah Golf Estates townhouse for buy-to-let 30 days ago. Still waiting for keys. Still waiting for DWA activations. Just happened. Haven't snagged.
You won't snag.
Oh, I'm the worst snagger. I mean, I tell this to everybody. The reason I'm not a great snagger, unless the building is falling down, you get a year's warranty. So I give it to the tenant. I'm like, there's the phone number. It looks great. Any problems, it doesn't matter if the kitchen falls or anything, it's fixable for free. So I'll always just take it. If you're living in it, it's different, isn't it?
Yes.
You would snag, wouldn't you?
I would snag, definitely. Damn right.
I've never snagged.
Okay, so villa townhouses, we agree, still growth.
Yeah.
Launches for that side of things happening for us this year.
It's not slowing down. This is the mental thing about it, is the Acres has just launched. It's already oversubscribed.
Which is a villa community.
Villa community, yeah. You've got Oasis, which is completely sold out. They were like 25, 30 million dirham villas, down to I think about 11 or 12. You've got Gaff Woods, I've just talked about. I'm on like an off-plan WhatsApp group with our team. And by the time we're getting to the launch, you're like fighting to get access. And the mad thing about it is that we've got so many people that want to get on the action. So it's not like... The beauty about Allsopp and Allsopp, for anybody watching this, is that we've got one of the biggest private landlord and owner databases in Dubai. So
people who transacted with us previously.
Yeah, so we've got 16, 17 years of previous owners. We're registering around 1,000 new landlords a month that want to rent their house with us. These landlords are all investors. So we would go back to them and say, hey, Carl, you just rented your house. What are you doing with your money? Have you seen Gaff Woods? And that's the strength we've got at the moment over every other off-plan company, where we're seeing real traction. Landlords are getting their rent and reinvesting compoundly straight back into the market.
People make comparisons. We're going off subject a little bit with the market report, but people make comparisons to 08. How different do you think now is to 08? Because clearly these launches selling out is people betting on Dubai's future. So what's the difference between 08 and today?
I mean, there's an absolutely mental, crazy difference. I'm just going to read this out to you, by the way. So this is a payment plan for a villa. I'm not going to tell you what it is or any information about it. It's a deal that was done from one of my clients. And the payment plan is as such: 10% on booking, 10% in a month, 10% in 6 months, 10% in 6 months, 10% in 6 months, 10% in 6 months, 20% is the final payment on the 8th instalment. Okay. So by the time you get the keys, you're 80% paid in cash. Now, in 2008, when I was selling villas, and 2006, but 08 specifically, some developers were doing 5 or 10% down and 90% completion. What that means to everybody here, developers have full liquidity. The other thing to consider with the market that's gone up, liquidity means how much you buy it for, how much cash you've got in it. Because the prices have gone up, we have so many liquid clients at the moment. It's incredible. So there's a base foundation of money underneath the developers and the buyers at the moment.
What's going on with apartments? We talked about villas. What's happening in the apartments at the moment with DLD data and our data?
Do I have it?
I don't think you do have it.
I don't have that.
No.
What I do have to go from data is luxury. I think luxury is the big one to talk about. Luxury takeover for A&A. So we've seen a 10% decline in finance buyers month to month. I don't read much into that data, but one thing that I do read into is there's been a 91% increase year on year of cash buyers. It's such an interesting one in the luxury market. When you go like £1 million or £2 million to Dubai, that's not luxury. Luxury is 5, 6, 7 million or 25 million dirhams upwards, $10 million realistically. Anyone that's buying at $10 million, 91% of them people are cash. What do you put that down to?
I put it down to when you have a lot of money, you've probably got more complex financial situation, whether it's ownership, different ownerships, foundations, different companies. Actually getting financing becomes way more difficult when your structure is more complex. So actually it's probably a lot less hassle buying with cash. I do think at the upper end of the marketplace, perhaps there's a privacy aspect. People don't want to know what they've got in terms of financing and stuff like that. So I just think it's a completely different sort of person. Also, you've got to factor in at that end of the market, there's still off-plan stuff as well where you have to finance with cash or purchase with cash until you get towards the latter stages.
I think when we talk about complexity, I'm not going to go into too much detail on this, but if I wanted to get cash today, I wouldn't, this is me speaking as Lewis also, I wouldn't go to a bank. I would go to my foundation that holds the assets and I'd leverage debt finance against one of them to raise the cash, become a cash buyer quickly. And I think when you're at that market, we talk about complex financial instruments, a lot of people will have their foundation or their asset holding database and they've got millions and millions in there. They will go to the bank and say, these are my properties. I want to lend money against the properties to get the cash to do the speed of the transaction, or their business as an example. So I think at that end of the market, the instruments of finance are a little bit different. And what you'll find is the speed of transaction will generally be quicker as well.
It'd be interesting to see if Dubai can absorb so many new luxury off-plan launches or more stuff coming to marketplace. Because the reality is, let's say, for example, I think it was reported 1,800 millionaires supposed to be coming to Dubai in the next 12 months or so.
Yeah.
1,800 is not a lot. And actually look at that in the marketplace, how many people have that much amount of money? I don't know.
Do you think Dubai has made 1,800 millionaires in a year?
Probably, yeah, for sure.
There's not even a doubt in my mind about it. There's not even. How many friends have we got that, let's say in the last 15 years of living in Dubai, that we've urged them to get on the property ladder, and you speak to them now and they're like, oh my God, my house in JG I bought for 4 is now worth 15. How many of them people we've got? We've got so many friends that, people that we bump into at the clubhouse. And you just work it out, like, wow, fair play to you. Dubai, forget making millionaires from real estate. It's made people real estate's been in the economy as a property owner. But one interesting thing about the whole luxury takeover is Jumeirah Golf Estates. So Jumeirah Golf Estates is a really interesting one. 2 things. We have a 51% market share of sold properties in JGE. That is wild numbers.
So all transactions that happen in JGE last month, 51% were sold by Allsopp Allsopp.
And the market, how many brokers are there? It's crazy. One of the most interesting dynamics I'm seeing in Jumeirah Golf Estates, we really struggled to break the 20, 25 million dirham villa community area. So any villas were selling. I remember this Redwood Avenue, isn't they? The big long villas, and they were all renovated, and they were sitting on the market for one. We're like, why are these not breaking? Why are they not breaking the mold? And what you found is that we've started selling villas in Al Barari at 5,000 dirhams a square foot, and you start to break the mold in these different areas and doing 50, 60 million dirham villas. And we're like, wow, why has JG not done that? Darren and his team, to be fair, Liam and the people around him, they've sold 4 villas over 35 million in the last 10 days.
What I will say to that is it's probably not just a rising market, but we're actually seeing the consequence of lots of renovations been happening over the last 12, 18 months. A lot of people getting into the renovations market. Obviously, naturally, you're going to get more money for a renovated property. And I think that's why you're seeing them high ticket price.
I don't know, the podcast, the whole podcast about an AirPod in my ear.
But the reason why you're seeing high ticket price deals in Jumeirah Golf Estates, you're seeing a lot of refurbished units come to market. So
it's the big part of the market at the moment. And I think to be an investor in today's market, you either buy an off-plan the future project, or you flip and renovate. I've got a few friends that have bought in Jumeirah Islands, bought them, renovated them. They've made good money on them. But the problem is you're in for 12 months, aren't you, on a renovation flip, especially when you're buying financing. Plus.
Large part of our audience are actually tenants. And we hope to be landlords one day, or buyers one day. 30% decline in rental renewals month on month. Look into that much? I mean, for me, I think month on month, not a great data point. You look at over probably quarters and half yearly.
I think the issue is that you're going to find landlords are kicking people out from a year ago, and then people are being kicked out. The renewal can't happen, and they'll be facing consequences for the new rental price. Obviously, if you're a tenant, you rented 4 or 5 years ago, you are clawing on to the price that you've got at the best price you can. But landlords either want to sell or they're looking to get today's market value. So how they'll do that is eject them and go down that route. So I think you'll probably see more of the people that were a sitting tenant to a degree. They're going to be moving on, and when that happens, what I think most tenants are forced to do is then look at buying because they don't want to pay the new rental price. So 30% of is not a number I look at for tenancies.
There's been an increase in rental prices month on month, 4% increase versus previous month.
Yeah,
this is DLD data, by the way, Dubai Land Department, and then a 7% increase in villa townhouses month on month. So again, this continues. I think long-term ownership for a tenant is a must at some point.
Yeah, I think the thing with tenants, you can get on the ladder today. I know you say it to everybody. If you wanted to be in the Dubai boom, you could basically buy a 650,000 dirham studio, and some developers are doing 1% a month for 100 months. You can get on. It's just forcing yourself to get on. I think tenants is a must to get on the ladder, especially ride the wave whilst you can. Okay, and on to the final point of today's podcast, talking about Dubai data, long-term gains. Dubai's obviously seen massive gains along the way. Do we think Dubai is undervalued, overvalued, or cooked normal? Where do you see it?
I think it's where it should be, based on population, people coming to country. The reality is it's only worth what someone's prepared to pay. The reality is launches are selling out. Most real estate brokerages are having record months.
Are they? I thought just us.
Our teams are having record months. So people are buying. The reality is people see Dubai as value.
Yeah. That
value is actually linked also to safety, to ease of doing business. I think all of that is fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's where it should be. I don't think it's overvalued. Yeah, you look at it compared to key cities around the world, and you could argue that we're still underpriced.
Would you say in general you would put the UK next to London? That's Dubai next to London. They're like the leading cities now, aren't they? Really? Yeah, no.
A 2-bed apartment in a decent location in London, you're looking £2 million plus. So what's that? 9-10 million dirhams.
Okay.
Probably somewhere like in downtown, probably a third of the price, 40% of that price.
Let's run the numbers now. So I'm looking at a unit. I'm going to give you an average unit here. So the Lucan, which is in central London, Chelsea, is £4 million. And the square,
what's the size? How many bedrooms?
The square is let's have a look now. It is 1,800 square feet.
So it's probably a size of a 3-bed in Dubai.
And that's a 2-bedroom. So I'm going to give you the numbers here. So that works out to, what's that? About 9,000 dirhams a square foot. Now, I'm just on Datahub, our platform to see sold data in Dubai. 2-bedroom in the Palm Jumeirah. The 8, which is a branded residence, is 3,800 dirhams a square foot. Then we can look at Marina Residences. We've just sold a 2-bed there for 1,960 dirhams a square foot.
It is catching though, isn't it? And it's still quite some fair way, but it's still moving at a pace where the gap is starting to narrow.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's move away from the Lucan and say that's a wild example. But if I go down, let's just do the newest ones here. Not going to do highest price. I'm going to do newest. So let's just pick this one. Chelsea Towers, Chelsea Manor Gardens, SW3. It's a 2-bedroom. It has a view of London City, we'll call it.
Okay. What's the size? How many bedrooms?
Size is 853 square feet.
2-bed.
2-bedroom, 853 square
Which
feet,
is
yeah,
small.
which is small.
Price?
That is 1.15, so that works out to around 4,500 dirhams a square foot for a standard apartment in Chelsea. Now, you could buy in the Kempinski on the Crescent, a 2-bedroom for 2,580 dirhams a square foot. You could buy Serena Residences for 3,500 or Golden Mile. So if you take the Palm Jumeirah, and it's probably not super prime versus Chelsea, which is a great location, you're probably half price to Chelsea.
And have a much better view, most likely.
So I think there's, comparable tells me there's still a lot of growth in Dubai. People have the mindset of what they've seen in before as the previous prices, but I think the previous price was the previous Dubai, if that makes sense. The Dubai we are today.
You could never look back at prices the way they were because the chances are they probably won't be there again.
Unless it's Bitcoin.
Do you think the change in mortgages, so the central bank last month announced that you can now no longer finance or take your fees and commissions paid as part of the loan to allow you to purchase property? Do you think that'll make a difference to people?
Yeah, definitely. I've got a friend that's buying at the moment, and they were accounting for that to loan. I mean, what's interesting, it was never really talked about. It was just, if you go to a mortgage broker, we can lend you the 6% on top. 6% of a property purchase is a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I've lobbied for with the Dubai Land Department, and I was messaging His Excellency Imam Ben Galita, the Director General of the Dubai Land Department, about a couple of weeks ago, and I put forward to him the idea of understanding that the benchmark for property is 5 million. And I said, that's where it goes to a lower loan to value. I was like, with the market increasing, we need a better loan to value price.
Do you know why that's happened? It's a cooling mechanism. Make no mistake, that has been put in place to not have the market continually overinflate.
Yeah.
And it's probably the reason why they've not increased the limit on the 5 million is because they don't want the market to get like a runaway train, basically.
Agreed.
I think it would make an impact for sure. I think you might see people having to maybe move down a little bit in terms of bedrooms or sizes or just readjust what they're buying for. But the reality is in this marketplace right now, we still see growth for
Definitely.
sure.
So if you're reading the data and you want the report, we can send it to you from DMing the Allsopp Allsopp, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Summary of today's data is the market is going up. The launches are selling. The villas, town communities and townhouses are the place to be. And there's lots of activity.
Banks are willing to lend. More people than ever moving into country. It's safe. It's warming up.
It's getting hotter, isn't it?
It's getting hotter.
And it's tax-free.
And it's tax-free. So come to Dubai, Habibi.
Not too much because of the traffic. Cheers, guys.